I've recently come into possession of some top secret information that for some YouTuber reason or another I'm going to disclose to you entirely for free. Also subscribe. Did you know that RPGMaker games are primarily RPGs? I know, when did this become a thing? Hey, you wanna know something else? Well, don't tell anyone, but RPGs suck. Yeah, I already made this joke. Sorry, that's my bad. I completely forgot for a second that I'm not allowed to bring up opinions on the internet. Yeah, stupid, I know. Let me get back to some actual facts. So, obviously, you can't say that RPGs are an objectively bad genre, and honestly, there are quite a few RPGs that I really enjoy, just not RPGMaker ones, but whether or not RPGs are good isn't exactly the point here. The point I do want to bring up here is that I've never once seen an RPG made an RPGMaker on anyone's top 10 RPGMaker games list, let alone anyone's top 10 games ever list. And God knows that if your game is not on that list, then it is entirely and completely irrelevant. Now, saying that there aren't any successful RPGs made in RPGMaker wouldn't be entirely accurate. I just can't think of a single one at all. Now, before you yell at me for not researching popular RPGs made in RPGMaker, that's kinda entirely my point here. Despite my presence in the RPGMaker community, I'm really uneducated on a lot of it. I don't like a lot of it, and I'm basically the embodiment of an RPGMaker outsider playing RPGMaker games. If it's not popular enough, or if it didn't do well enough, I don't know jack shit about it. RPGMaker games fail because they fail to innovate in such a way that attracts the attention of those outside of the RPGMaker community. If your game doesn't grab hold of the attention of outsiders to the community, your game will technically fail. Maybe not entirely fail, it will still have some modicum of success, but nothing so substantial as to change your life or to allow game development to become your career, at least not off of that RPGMaker game that you created. If your game doesn't have an innovative enough story, innovative enough graphics, innovative enough mechanics, innovative enough themes, innovative, it will not break out of the RPGMaker community mold. What'll happen is you release your game and only other RPGMaker game developers or content creators will play it. On top of that, you'll have to market your game in such a way that it shows off these innovative things to the general public and which doesn't require a lot of digging to understand, which apparently nobody knows how to do. Your marketing can totally be ambiguous or not entirely revealing as to what the game is, but it should in some way reflect the game, not just be another montage of a character walking to some epic music. RPGMaker games fail because there isn't enough time invested into advertising the game or because the person doing the advertising doesn't have enough skills to do so well. Now, if you're making an RPGMaker game as a hobby, as practice for future games, or just for a couple of friends, then your game literally cannot fail. Maybe your friends won't love it as much as you thought, but let's be realistic here, they're going to support you no matter what. It's incredibly difficult to find friends who will give objective and honest critique, and so long as you get a few laughs out of the interaction of sharing the game with your friends, then it's entirely a success. The thresholds for failure shift entirely depending on whether or not you're making a hobby project or a commercial one. The main message of this video is directed at the latter. Now, I've already made a video discussing some strategies for how to make your RPGMaker games stand out. I'd highly recommend watching that if you haven't, and if you have, then consider this video a sort of prequel to that one. Anyways, let me try to summarize the entirety of my thoughts on why RPGMaker games fail in one consolidated rant. Be warned, I will fail, and if you at any point disagree with a single thing that I say, just dislike the video and leave a comment saying I'm not funny. Reddit did that, and it really worked. It was called Not Funny on Reddit, guys. I don't know what I'm gonna do. There is a distinct lack of innovation in current RPGMaker games. I mean, sure, I see innovation in the occasional game, and the games that are innovative I vocalize my love for, but in the almost 200 games I've played for this channel, I can come away saying I remember an exact scene or moment from 3. 2 of those being relatively recent ones that I've played. Now, maybe you can chalk this up to dementia, or the fact that I just don't like most every traditional RPG, but at the same time, I still have standards. A game not being an RPG isn't a defining reason for me to like it, and like I said before, I do still like some RPGs, though still not really traditional turn-based combat ones. But let's talk about that last game that I remember, the one I haven't played recently but am still greatly influenced by to this day. Rockwood. Rockwin had an incredibly unique story concept that I could really only sorta compare to Psychonauts, which I haven't even played. You go through the game helping others through symbolic means, all with the central theme of music, creating a complete song from all the people you help that is sung for the finale. I've said many times that music is incredibly powerful, and making it a central theme of Rockwin ensured the game would leave a lasting emotional impact on the player.
Even with my eyes closed, I hear you speak to me.
The game could have just been a sad story, and I mean it still would have been a great story, but Rockwin innovated beyond that to be about music as well, and the music for many is what drew them in and what kept them fans. The music allowed Rockwin to break out of the RPG Maker community and to become a more mainstream game, along with the phenomenal writing, but shh, no, it's all the music. I guess my ramblings kinda circle back to the fact that your game needs a hook, some unique or at least somewhat unique concept to draw people in, and yes, you can make a unique hook with RPG Maker. So many RPG Maker games are run-of-the-mill RPGs, or have a bland and overdone story, or have terrible visuals or shitty sound design, or at the end of the day just nothing remotely interesting in concept. The RPG Maker community lacks innovation because games made in it have the RPG Maker community net to fall back on. While having a tight-knit and supportive community is good, I feel like it's also hindering the growth and creativity that some games could have. There isn't a looming threat to have to innovate in order to get your game out there because someone like me will always play it regardless. While this isn't always the case, and yeah, it's a somewhat cynical way to look at things, with no looming threat or rush to innovate, people either never will or will take much longer to do so. There's just really no incentive to innovate, which, if you think about it, is fucking weird as hell. Guys, there is literally zero pressure on you. Maybe not for all of you, but for the vast majority, this is just a hobby. You have infinite time to make this game because, let's be honest, you're never going to release it, even though you should, and because there's no financial strain to release it by a certain date. You have, theoretically, as much time as you're alive to do this. So fucking innovate. You've got the time, why are you just sticking with what's been done? Yeah, if you want to make a classic RPG for yourself, you totally can and I won't stop you. But if you want to release your game and have any shred of hope of making a profit, you better make a fucking interesting game and you better innovate in some regard. Otherwise, the only people who are going to play your turn-based, top-down RPG Maker game with RTP graphics are other RPG Maker developers. And that, at least to me, isn't success. I hope that this video was at least somewhat insightful. In true Toasty fashion, I wrote this script in one sitting at midnight and did zero research beforehand, so, as with all of my videos, assume that this is 100% my opinion and maybe, not totally, possibly, entirely correct. Don't just hive mind this. Form your own opinions, and be sure to not share them at all and just dislike the video. Thank you so much for watching, stay toasty, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.